The jungle of Tarsus 4 was a world of silence and death. Its trees were tall as towers, with black bark and glowing blue leaves that shone under the twin moons. Among the shadows moved a hunter, large and silent, his eyes glowing gold in the dim light. His name was Kraltan, leader of a Vorkesh hunting pack. The Vorkesh were known across the galaxy as perfect predators. They were strong, fast, and clever. They had 4 arms, 2 for fighting and 2 for climbing, and their skin was dark gray with patterns that helped them blend into the jungle. To Kraltan, life was simple: hunt, feed, survive. There was no place for mercy in his world. That night, Kraltan hunted alone. His pack had gone to the northern ridge to bring down a forest bull, but he preferred to hunt in silence. He moved between the trees like a shadow, listening to the heartbeat of the forest. The sound of insects, the rustle of leaves, and the far roar of a distant beast filled the air. Then he heard something new. It was soft, weak. A strange sound that did not belong to Tarsus 4. Kraltan stopped and tilted his head. It was not a growl, not a hiss, it was crying. He followed the sound through the fog until he found a clearing. There, a small escape pod lay broken among the vines, smoke rising from its cracked surface. Inside the wreck, something moved. Kraltan approached slowly, claws ready, his senses alert. Then he saw it, a human child. The little creature sat on the ground, its clothes torn, its leg bleeding. Its eyes were wide and full of tears. Kraltan had seen humans before, tall warriors with metal armor and loud weapons, but never one so small. The cub looked up at him, its lips trembling. "Help! Please," it whispered. The predator froze. Every instinct screamed to end it quickly. The weak did not belong among the living. That was the law of the Vorkesh. Yet something strange happened inside Kraltan. The cub's voice was soft and broken, but it carried something he did not understand, a kind of trust. He stepped closer. The child tried to crawl backward but fell, crying again. Kraltan's sharp eyes studied the wounds. The leg was cut but not deadly. The child would not survive the cold jungle night, though. The predators of Tarsus 4 were many and none showed mercy. He reached down, his claws hovering above the child. The cub whimpered, closing its eyes. Kraltan could feel its tiny heartbeat, fast, scared, but alive. His people said emotions made you weak, but in that moment something inside him refused to kill. With a slow, careful movement, Kraltan lifted the human child into his arms. The cub gasped, but did not fight. It simply looked up at him with wide eyes, whispering one word again. "Help!" The predator grunted, confused by his own actions. He wrapped the child in a piece of hide from his pack pouch and began walking back to his den. The jungle seemed to watch him, silent and curious. Kraltan's den lay inside a deep stone cave by the river. It was large and cold, filled with bones and trophies from past hunts. He laid the child on a soft bed of dried leaves and examined the wounds more closely. The human skin was pale and fragile compared to his own thick hide. He tore a strip from an old cloth and tied it around the bleeding leg. The child watched him quietly. When he touched the wound, it winced but did not scream. Instead, it whispered, "Thank you." Kraltan did not know those words, but the tone felt peaceful. He growled softly, sitting back against the wall. The cub was small, helpless, and strange. He did not understand why he brought it here. The Vorkesh did not save prey. The pack would call him weak for this. The child soon fell asleep, breathing softly under the warmth of a fur blanket. Kraltan stared at the small figure for a long time. The night sounds of the jungle echoed outside, but his thoughts were louder. Why did he help? Why did that small voice move him more than any roar or challenge? He did not have the answer. The next morning, Kraltan went out to hunt food. He brought back a small animal and roasted it over a low fire. The smell filled the cave. The human cub woke up and looked around, fear still in its eyes. When Kraltan handed it a piece of cooked meat, it hesitated, then took a bite. The way it ate, slow, cautious, grateful, made him strange feelings again. He pointed to himself and said, "Kral." The child blinked. "Kral?" He nodded. "Kraltan." Then he pointed to the cub. "Human, what name?" The child smiled weakly. "Eli." The sound of the name echoed softly in the cave. "Eli." Kraltan repeated, the word awkward on his tongue. The cub giggled, and Kraltan felt something strange again, a warmth that had nothing to do with fire. But peace did not last long. By nightfall, Kraltan's pack returned from the northern ridge. 6 Vorkesh warriors entered the den, carrying meat and trophies. When they saw the human cub sleeping by the fire, they froze. "What is this?" one growled. His name was Rethka, Kraltan's second-in-command. "You keep prey in our den?" Kraltan rose to his full height, towering over the others. "It is under my protection," he said simply. Rethka hissed, baring his teeth. "Protection? Have you lost your mind, Kraltan?" "It is weak. You shame us before the hunt spirits." "The cub is mine," Kraltan growled back. "I found it. I decide its fate," the pack murmured angrily. Mercy was against their ways. To keep a living prey was dishonor. Rethka stepped closer. "If you will not end it, I will." Before he could move, Kraltan's claws flashed. They stopped inches from Rethka's throat. "Touch it and you will never hunt again," he said in a voice like thunder. The pack fell silent. After a long moment, Rethka stepped back, snarling. "You grow soft, old hunter. The jungle eats the soft." With that, the others left, muttering among themselves. Kraltan sat back by the fire, his heart pounding. He had just broken his people's oldest rule, for a human child. He looked at the cub again. Eli was awake, eyes wide, but not afraid. Slowly, the little hand reached out and touched Kraltan's arm. "Thank you," Eli said again, voice full of trust. Kraltan didn't know what the words meant, but the tone made him feel strong, not weak. He placed one clawed hand gently beside the child and gave a soft growl of acceptance. Eli smiled and leaned against him, falling asleep again. Outside, the moons of Tarsus IV rose high, bathing the jungle in silver light. Kraltan looked out from the cave entrance. He could hear the distant calls of predators, the whispers of his pack plotting. He knew this choice would bring trouble, but when he turned and saw the small human sleeping safely by the fire, something in his heart told him it was worth it. For the first time in his life, Kraltan felt something stronger than instinct, a sense of purpose and far above. Among the stars, human search ships crossed the edge of the system, following a faint distress signal that came from the jungle moon. The paths of predator and human had crossed, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The suns of Tarsus Thorf rose slowly through the fog, turning the jungle gold and green. Birds with crystal wings flew high above, singing sharp metallic notes. Deep inside the stone den, Kraltan sat beside a dying fire, sharpening his claws on a rock. Beside him slept the small human cub, Eli, wrapped in furs. The child's breathing was soft and even now. For 2 nights, Kraltan had guarded him without sleep. Every sound in the jungle made him raise his head, ready to fight. He did not know why he did this. It was not his duty. It went against everything the Vorkesh believed. Yet every time he looked at the small human, he remembered the voice that said, "Help." Something about that word had broken through the wall he had built around his heart. The pack's anger. The sound of footsteps echoed at the mouth of the cave. Kraltan turned quickly. It was Rethka, his second-in-command, with 2 other pack members. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Rethka's voice was low and filled with disgust. "You still keep the prey alive? You shame us, Kraltan." Kraltan stood. His tall frame filled the space. "The cub is no prey." "No prey?" Rethka laughed bitterly. "It cannot hunt. It cannot fight. It cries when the wind is cold. You risk your name for this weak creature. The cub is under my protection," Kraltan said again, his tone firm. Rethka stepped forward, his claws scraping against the stone. "Protection is for the strong of our kind, not for a creature that should already be bones in the forest." The pack whispers Kraltan. "They say you have lost your hunter's spirit." "I have not lost it," Kraltan growled. "I have found something new." "What could a human give you, leader?" Rethka sneered. "Do you think the humans will honor you for this?" "They will hunt us one day as they hunt everything. That is their nature." Kraltan looked toward the sleeping child and then back to his second. "Maybe, but perhaps they hunt for a reason. Perhaps they fight for something we do not understand." Rethka snarled and turned away. "The pack will not follow a leader who protects prey. Choose the pack, or choose the human." With that, he left, his steps heavy with anger. Kraltan stood still for a long moment, his thoughts dark and stormy. He knew Rethka spoke for many. The Vorkesh lived by strength. To show mercy was to invite death, but when he looked at Eli again, small and fragile yet alive, He felt something that strength had never given him. Peace. Learning trust, when Eli woke, he found Kralton sitting by the fire. The child smiled sleepily. "Good morning, Kral." Kralton tilted his head, not understanding all the words but recognizing the soft tone. "Eli," he said back. The child pointed to the food cooking on the fire. "Eat." Kralton nodded and handed him a piece of roasted meat. The child took it carefully and began to eat, his little hands trembling from hunger. He spoke as he ate, though Kralton did not understand most of the words. Still, the sound was calming, soft like the flow of a stream. When the child finished, Kralton rose and motioned for him to follow. He led Eli to a small pool outside the cave where clean water collected between the rocks. The child laughed when he saw his reflection. Kralton watched quietly. He had never seen joy like this before. Among the Vorkesh, laughter was rare. They lived by strength, by rules, by silence. But humans, this one at least, found happiness in small things, even in danger. As the day passed, Kralton taught Eli a few words in his language. He pointed to the sky and said, "Rock." Eli repeated, "Rock." He pointed to himself. "Kral." The child smiled. "Kral." It was strange how quickly Eli learned. He was small, but his mind was sharp. When he laughed, Kralton felt something deep inside, something like pride. He realized that he no longer saw the cub as prey. He saw him as his cub. The threat returns that night. The air grew heavy with the scent of danger. Kralton knew that smell well. It was the smell of his own kind preparing to fight. He stood at the cave entrance, senses sharp. In the darkness, he saw glowing eyes watching from the trees. "Rethka," he said aloud. "I knew you would come." The second in command stepped forward, claws gleaming. "You broke the law, Kralton. You protect what should be dead. The pack cannot allow it." Behind him, 5 other Vorkesh warriors appeared, forming a half-circle around the cave. Inside, Eli woke up and saw the shadows outside. He grabbed Kralton's arm, frightened. "Kral?" he whispered. Kralton placed a clawed hand gently on the child's head. "Stay," he said softly. "Quiet." Then he walked out into the open. Rethka hissed. "Step aside. I will end it quickly." Kralton's voice was calm but powerful. "You will not touch him. You protect prey over your brothers?" "I protect life that trusts me," Kralton said. "That makes me stronger than you know." With a roar, Rethka leaped forward. Claws clashed against claws, teeth snapped, and the night filled with the sound of battle. Kralton fought like lightning, his movements precise and brutal. Rethka was fast, but Kralton was stronger. With one strike, he threw the other predator to the ground. The pack behind Rethka watched in silence, uncertain. Kralton placed his claw near Rethka's throat but did not strike. "If you wish to lead, then lead with strength," he said. "But true strength is not killing without reason." Rethka glared up at him. "You are weak." "Maybe," Kralton said quietly. "But weakness has kept this cub alive and taught me something your strength never could." He stepped back, letting Rethka rise. The others turned away, muttering. None dared challenge Kralton again that night. As the shadows disappeared into the jungle, Kralton returned to the cave. Eli ran to him, hugging his arm tightly. "Kral okay?" the child asked, eyes wide with worry. Kralton looked down at the small face pressed against him. The warmth of that touch made the pain of his wounds fade. "Kral okay," he said slowly, repeating the human words. Eli smiled with relief. "Good." A new understanding. Days passed. The jungle grew quieter. The pack stayed away. Kralton hunted only for the 2 of them now. Eli followed him sometimes, watching with curiosity as the great predator moved silently through the trees. Kralton began to notice things he never cared about before. The beauty of the glowing plants, the sound of water against stone, the warmth of the sun. The human child had changed how he saw his world. One evening, as they sat near the fire, Eli took out a small broken piece of metal from the escape pod. It was a part of his communicator. He showed it to Kralton and pointed at the sky. "Home," he said softly. "Mama, Papa." Kralton understood the sadness in his tone. The cub missed his family. He felt a deep ache in his chest, something he had never felt before. He pointed to the stars and said, "Eli, home." The child nodded, eyes full of hope. Kralton decided then that he would help the cub return to his people, no matter the cost. the night of the storm. The next night, thunder rolled over the jungle. The air flashed with electric light. A plasma storm was coming, one strong enough to burn through trees and rock. Kralton gathered furs and stones to block the cave entrance. Eli held onto his arm, frightened by the booming sound. "Safe," Kralton said, trying to calm him. "Kral here," the storm hit with a roar. Rain of blue fire fell from the sky, and the jungle outside burned with strange light. The cave shook, stones falling from the roof. Eli cried out and hid under Kralton's arms. The predator held him close, his huge body shielding the child from falling debris. For hours the storm raged. The fire went out, but Kralton did not move. He stayed awake, his body wrapped around the small human, protecting him from every falling stone, every flash of lightning. When morning came, the storm had passed. Smoke rose from the forest and the sky was pale and cold. Eli still slept, safe in Kralton's arms. The great predator looked down at the small face pressed against his chest and felt something powerful, something beyond reason. He whispered softly, "Kral, protect," and for the first time in his life he understood the meaning of care. The jungle of Tarsus IV was quiet after the great plasma storm. Ash floated in the air like soft snow. Trees were blackened and broken. The air smelled of burned earth and strange metal. Kralton stood at the mouth of his cave, his body covered with gray dust. The storm had torn the forest apart, yet the human cub, Eli, still slept safely under the firs. Kralton had kept him alive through the night, using his own body as a shield. Now, as the first light of morning touched the clouds, he looked out at the ruined jungle and felt a deep sense of calm. He had faced storms before, but never one like this, and never while protecting someone else. When he turned back, Eli was waking. The small boy rubbed his eyes and smiled sleepily. "Morning, Kral," Kralton nodded. He pointed outside. "Storm." "Gone." Eli peeked out of the cave, eyes wide. "Big mess," he said softly. Kralton didn't know all the words, but he understood the meaning. Yes, the jungle was broken, but they were alive. A quiet morning for the next few days, Kralton and Eli stayed near the cave. The pack did not return. Perhaps the storm had scattered them. Perhaps they were watching from afar, waiting. Kralton didn't care. He hunted small animals for food, shared the fire with the child, and repaired the cave walls with stones. Eli followed him everywhere, asking simple questions, pointing at strange plants or glowing insects. "Why blue?" Eli asked, touching a leaf that glowed like light. Kralton thought for a moment. "Life," he said. "Life bright." Eli nodded, smiling as if that answer made sense. In those quiet days, something grew between them. A bond stronger than language, stronger than fear. The danger in the mist, but peace never lasted long on Tarsus IV. One morning, Kralton smelled something wrong in the wind. It was the scent of blood, fresh and sharp. He rose at once, every sense alert. Eli noticed and stopped playing with stones. "Kral?" Kralton growled softly. "Danger." He moved quickly, pulling the child deeper into the cave and motioning for silence. Eli obeyed, hiding behind a rock, his small eyes wide. Then Kralton went outside to face whatever waited in the fog. The smell grew stronger. A low rumble echoed through the trees. And then, from the shadows, came three massive beasts, twice his size, with jaws lined with curved teeth and dark hides that shimmered with wet light. They were shadow fangs, predators from the deep jungle. The storm had driven them from their hunting grounds. Now they searched for new prey. Kralton knew them well. Even the Vorkesh avoided fighting a pack of shadow fangs. But the beasts had already caught the scent of the human cub. Their nostrils flared and they growled, circling the cave. Kralton spread his arms wide, claws out, blocking the entrance. His golden eyes blazed. The lead beast stepped closer, drool dripping from its fangs. It roared, a sound that shook the ground. Kralton roared back, his deep voice echoing across the valley. The battle begins. The first shadow fang lunged. Kralton moved fast, slashing upward with his claws. Blood sprayed into the air. The beast screamed and fell back, but the other two attacked together. Kralton fought like fire, his claws slicing, his tail whipping, his body twisting to block every strike. But the beasts were strong. One bit his shoulder, tearing through his thick skin. He roared in pain and smashed his elbow into its head. The creature stumbled, dazed. Inside the cave, Eli watched in terror. "Kral!" he shouted. but Kralton motioned for him to stay back. He knew he couldn't let the beasts near the child. He had promised himself, Kral protect. The largest shadow fang circled behind him. Kralton turned too late. The beast's claws ripped across his back, sending him to one knee. Pain burned through him, but he refused to fall. With a fierce growl, he drove his claws into the beast's chest and tore it open. The jungle went silent as the creature collapsed. The last two hesitated, uncertain now. But Kralton could feel his strength fading. Blood dripped from his wounds. His vision blurred. Then he heard a sound that filled him with shock, Eli's voice. Kral, no! The small human had come out of hiding. He ran toward Kralton, holding a broken stick like a weapon. His little face was full of fear, but his eyes were brave. Kralton's heart froze. Eli, no! He growled, his voice shaking. The Shadow Fang saw the child and turned, ready to strike. Kralton didn't think. He moved. The sacrifice with a roar that shook the trees. Kralton threw himself between Eli and the beast. The Shadow Fang leaped, its jaws wide. Kralton caught it midair, its teeth sinking into his arm. Pain exploded through him, but he didn't let go. He slammed the beast into the ground with all his strength. Again and again, until it stopped moving. Silence returned. Only the sound of rain dripping from the trees filled the air. Kralton fell to one knee, breathing heavily. His arm was torn and bleeding badly. His body trembled with exhaustion. Eli ran to him, eyes full of tears. Kral, you hurt. Kralton looked down at the small face, so full of worry. He touched the child's cheek gently with one claw. Kral, okay, he whispered, though it was not true. Eli shook his head and pressed his small hands over Kralton's wounds, trying to stop the bleeding. No die, Kral, he cried. The predator looked at him amazed. No one in his kind would ever do this. A Vorkesh would leave the weak behind, but this small human, so fragile, refused to leave him. Something deep inside Kralton shifted again. He realized that humans were not weak. They were brave in a way his kind could never understand. The long night. The storm returned that night, though smaller than before. Kralton lay by the fire inside the cave, his body wrapped in furs. His wounds burned, but he stayed silent. Eli sat beside him, refusing to sleep. The child wiped his tears and fed the fire with small sticks. Every time Kralton moved, the boy whispered, It's okay, Kral, I hear. The predator watched him through half-closed eyes. This human child had risked his life for him, a creature of claws and fangs. No one had ever done that before. He wanted to speak, to say something more than simple words. But all he managed was a weak growl. Eli, strong. The boy smiled faintly, though his eyes were red from crying. Kral strong too. Hours passed. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, the cave was filled with warmth, not just from the fire, but from something deeper. When morning came, Kralton was still alive. His body was weak, but his spirit was stronger than ever. Eli had fallen asleep beside him, his tiny hand resting on Kralton's arm. The predator looked at that small hand and felt something rise in his heart, something he had no name for. It was not hunger, not duty, not pride. It was care. The realization. When the sun rose, the jungle was quiet again. The shadow fangs were gone, their bodies taken by scavengers. Kralton slowly sat up, wincing from pain. He looked down at the sleeping human beside him and felt gratitude. He had saved Eli's life, yes, but Eli had also saved his. He thought about the laws of his people. The weak must fall. The strong must rule. But he began to see that those laws were wrong. Strength was not only in the body. It was in the heart. Eli, a small cub with no claws, had shown more strength than an entire pack of Vorkesh. Kralton looked toward the distant sky, where faint flashes of light marked human ships searching for their lost child. He didn't know they were near, but somehow he felt it. He placed his hand over his chest and whispered softly, Kral, protect. Then, with a rare and quiet smile, he added, Eli, family. The words felt strange on his tongue, but right in his soul. And in that moment, the mighty predator of Tarsus IV learned what true strength meant. Not the power to take life, but the courage to protect it. The jungle of Tarsus IV was quiet once more, but the tension in the air was different this time. Kralton stood on the edge of the riverbank, the human cub Eli at his side. Both were alert. The scars of the storms and battles were still fresh on the predator's body, and Eli's small face showed signs of worry. The predator's instincts sensed something new, something beyond the jungle. A low hum filled the sky, rising steadily in pitch. The child tilted his head. Crowl? Sound? Kralton sniffed the air. It was a smell he had never known. Metal, smoke, and something strangely familiar. Humans. They come, he growled softly, his body tensing. Eli's eyes widened. Humans, Kral? Friends? Kralton did not answer immediately. He had never encountered humans this close. He had seen their ships from afar, watched them through sensors, but never like this. Never with one of their kind in his care. First sight. The hum grew louder, then split into loud mechanical roars as a fleet of human search ships descended from the sky. Large machines glowing with lights and shields landed near the jungle clearing. Soldiers in shining armor poured out, their weapons scanning the terrain. Eli clutched Kralton's massive arm. Kral and friends. Kralton crouched low, shielding the child with his body. He could feel the power of the humans, the weapons, the armor, the strength. His golden eyes studied them. The soldiers paused at the edge of the jungle. They had seen the aftermath of the storm, the broken trees and the scorched ground, and then, moving slowly into the clearing, came Eli, holding Kralton's hand. One of the humans, Captain Aria Vega, stepped forward. Her armor was sleek, her visor reflecting the morning light. She raised a hand, signaling for calm. The small human child shouted, "Stop! Don't shoot! He saved me!" The soldiers froze. Their scanners showed the predator's injuries. They saw the child safe beside the giant alien. Kralton lowered his head slightly, unsure what these humans would do. Their weapons were far stronger than anything he had faced before. Yet the child trusted him, and that trust gave him courage. The human response, Captain Vega's voice was calm but firm. "You protected one of ours," she said softly. She stepped closer, lowering her weapon. "You could have killed him, but you did not." Kralton tilted his head. He did not understand all the words, but he recognized the tone. Respect. Eli smiled and held out his small hand. "He helped me, Kral," the soldiers whispered among themselves. Some were still cautious, their weapons raised. But the child's courage was contagious. Slowly they lowered their weapons. Captain Vega knelt down to Eli's height. "You're safe now," she said, smiling gently. She glanced at the predator, her eyes sharp but kind. "And you are remarkable." "Thank you." Kralton didn't understand fully, but something in her voice told him she meant it. He did not move closer or bow. That was not his way. But he did not step back either. He stayed between the humans and the jungle, guarding the child as he always had, building trust over the next hours. The humans approached slowly, respecting the predator's space. Captain Vega spoke through a translator device. Her words were careful. "You are Kralton, protector of Eli?" she asked. Kralton growled softly, a sound of agreement. He moved only slightly, signaling that Eli was under his protection. The soldiers watched, amazed. The great predator, a creature designed to kill, had defended a human child, and not out of fear, not out of hunger, but out of choice. Captain Vega looked at her team. This is why humans guard their own," she said quietly. "Even if it means trusting a predator, even if it means facing the unknown." Eli laughed softly and clapped his hands. "See, Kral. They nice." Kralton looked down at the child, then back at the humans. He could feel the power they carried, but also their care. There was something he had not understood before. Strength did not always come from claws or fangs. Sometimes it came from compassion and trust. The test of courage, one of the soldiers, younger and nervous, raised his weapon slightly. A warning beep sounded on his visor. Captain Vega shook her head. "Hold," she said. "Let him choose. The child trusts him. So do we. If he proves he does not mean harm." Kralton growled, low and steady, a sound that made the younger soldier step back. The predator's body tensed. He moved slightly forward, showing he was aware but did not attack. The child took a small step toward the human soldiers, then looked back at Kralton. "They..." "Safe, Kral. Okay?" The predator nodded, his golden eyes watching every movement. Eli smiled. Kralton realized that this was what humans called trust. The departure from the jungle after careful assessment, The humans decided it was safe to bring Eli back to their ship. Captain Vega extended her hand. Eli hesitated, then looked up at Kralton. "Kral, come." The Predator growled softly. He could not follow them onto their ships, not yet. But he lowered his massive head close to the child. "Kral, watch," he said, using the words he had taught himself. Eli nodded and climbed onto the human soldier's shoulder. The humans began to lift him toward the ship, but every step was careful, respectful. They treated him not as prey, not as alien, but as someone precious. Kralton followed at a distance, watching. He could see the care the humans gave to the child. The gentle hands, the shields to protect him from the wind, the soft words in his language. He understood now what humans meant when they said they guarded their own. It was not only protection, it was dedication, loyalty, and courage. A lesson learned. As the ship lifted off, Kralton crouched on a high ridge, golden eyes watching the child disappear into the sky. He remembered the words Captain Vega had said. Even if it means trusting a predator, even if it means facing the unknown. Kralton's claws dug into the stone beneath him. He had faced death countless times. He had fought beasts that could tear him apart. But the feeling in his chest now, pride, awe, and understanding, was stronger than any physical victory. Eli had trusted him. The humans had trusted him. And in return, Kralton had learned something no predator of Tarsus IV had ever known. Strength was not only in killing or surviving, but in protecting life no matter the cost. He felt a strange warmth as he watched the human ships disappear among the clouds. He had saved Eli, yes, but he had also gained knowledge, respect, and a new understanding of courage. The Predator's promise. When the ships vanished, Kralton returned to his cave. The jungle was silent again, but he was not lonely. Eli's laughter and trust echoed in his mind. He touched the furs where the child had slept. "Kral, protect," he whispered softly. And then more firmly he added, "One day, Kral, see again." Even if the humans were gone, the Predator felt a bond that could not be broken. Eli had shown him the meaning of family, trust, and courage. And far across the stars, humans recorded the name of a Predator who had saved one of their own. Kralton did not know the record existed. He only knew this. He had learned why humans guard their own, and it was a lesson that would change him forever. The jungle of Tarsus IV was quiet once more, but Kralton felt a change within himself. The wind whispered through broken branches, carrying the scent of wet earth and healing plants. He moved slowly through the trees, muscles still aching from the battles, storms, and long nights. Every scar on his body reminded him of the cub he had protected, Eli, and the lesson the child had taught him. Strength was not only in claws, fangs, or hunting skill. It was in loyalty, courage, and the willingness to protect something weaker than yourself. Kralton paused by the river, the golden sun reflecting off his dark gray hide. He lowered his massive head and let the water touch his claws. Reflection did not show scars or battle marks. It showed something new, a predator who had learned care. The return days passed, and the forest slowly began to heal from the storms. Trees leaned on each other. New plants grew from the ashes, and the river ran clear again. Kralton hunted as before, but his focus had changed. He listened to the jungle differently now. He watched for movement, not just to hunt, but to protect. Every sound became a message. Some for danger, some for curiosity, some for life itself. Then one day, a faint hum returned to the sky. Kralton froze. He climbed a high ridge and saw a small human scout ship descending among the trees. His golden eyes narrowed. Could it be? He had not expected humans to return, the human encounter. The scout ship landed gently and a team of humans stepped out. This time they were cautious, observing the jungle. Kralton stayed hidden, watching. Then from the ship a familiar small voice called, "Kral!" Eli ran out, laughing and waving. The Predator stepped out of the shadows slowly. The humans froze for a moment, unsure what the massive creature would do. Kralton's eyes met Captain Aria Vega's again. She smiled, understanding the bond. "He remembers you," she said softly. "And we all remember what you did." Eli hugged Kralton's leg tightly. "Kral, you strong!" "You brave. You saved me." The Predator's growl was low and soft. He could not speak human words, but he could feel the meaning. Pride, love, protection, all mixed together. Captain Vega stepped forward. He has learned what we already know. Humans protect their own, but it is not weakness, it is courage. Kralton nodded slightly, understanding fully for the first time. A test of courage. The humans had not come only to retrieve Eli. Scouts reported movement in the jungle. Something dangerous had returned after the storms. Shadowfangs, larger and more aggressive, were stalking the forest again. Captain Vega looked at Kralton. We need your help. If you protect this area, no one else will die. Kralton tilted his head. He had faced these creatures before. Alone, they were deadly. With the humans? Perhaps even stronger. He looked down at Eli. Kral fight, he said simply. The child smiled. Kral brave. With a deep breath, the predator stepped forward, letting the humans follow at a safe distance. Together, they moved into the heart of the jungle. The battle in the jungle. The Shadowfangs emerged from the fog, their eyes glowing, jaws snapping. They lunged at Kralton first, sensing him as the largest threat. He roared, claws flashing in the dim light, and met their attacks with perfect precision. Every strike was calculated, every movement a dance of survival and protection. The humans worked together, covering Eli and attacking with advanced weapons. Their fire was precise, but they did not lead. They let Kralton fight first. Trusting his strength, one massive beast lunged at Eli. Kralton reacted instantly, throwing himself between the child and the Shadowfang. Claws met fangs, and the predator held the creature back while the humans fired nets that restrained it. The battle raged for hours. Kralton moved like a shadow, powerful yet careful, protecting both humans and the jungle. When the last Shadowfang fell, silence returned. The humans were amazed. He fought for us, and for the child, Captain Vega said, awe in her voice. Kralton knelt by Eli, who climbed onto his massive arm. The child hugged him tightly. Kral, strongest in galaxy. The predator's growl was low but satisfied. He had not just survived, he had protected life, and learned that true strength was measured not by killing, but by courage and care. The lesson of humans after the battle. The humans began setting up temporary shelters in the jungle. Eli stayed close to Kralton, never leaving his side. Captain Vega approached the predator. You have learned our ways, she said. Humans protect their own, not because they are weak, but because they are brave. You have shown the same bravery. Kralton listened. It was strange to hear someone say that a predator had learned from humans, yet in his chest he felt the truth. He looked at the child sleeping safely in a cot the humans made and realized something. Protecting life was not only about instinct, it was about heart, choice, and loyalty. Eli had taught him that. And in return, Kralton had shown the humans the strength of courage beyond fear. The farewell days later, the human fleet prepared to leave Tarsus 4. Eli hugged Kralton tightly. Kral, see soon? The predator lowered his massive head close to the child. Kral, watch, he said. The humans watched, understanding. Respect filled the air. Captain Vega approached and placed a hand on Kralton's shoulder. Thank you. You will always be remembered. Kralton did not understand all the words, but he knew the meaning. Eli's laughter and courage had changed him forever. The scout ship lifted, carrying Eli safely with the humans. Kralton stood on the ridge, golden eyes following the ship until it disappeared into the sky. For the first time in his life, Kralton felt complete, the predator's future. The jungle of Tarsus 4 would continue, as it always had, filled with storms, predators, and challenges. But Kralton was no longer the same predator who hunted for survival alone. He had seen the courage of humans, their loyalty to each other, and the power of protecting life. He roamed the jungle strong and wise, carrying the lessons of the child and humans in his heart. And whenever the wind whispered through the trees, he imagined the laughter of Eli, the courage of Captain Vega, and the lesson that would never leave him. True strength is not in killing, but in protecting what you love, even if it is small, fragile, or different from you. Kralton growled softly, a sound of pride and contentment. He was a predator, yes, but now he was something more, a guardian, a teacher, and a friend. The galaxy beyond Tarsus 4 would never forget him. And one day when the stars aligned, the predator and the human child would meet again, two lives forever connected by courage. trust and the unbreakable bond between those who guard their own.